Hello everyone, Half Full Monty here again. Recently on my last video, I discussed while I was out in West Texas at my uh, factory toilet in my Spirit Deluxe 2019 Casita uh, had failed on me. The flapper stuck. It wouldn't fill with water. It wouldn't hold water, and it also would fill up by itself. I've had other problems with the toilet in the past. I've replaced the valve on it and done other things. And so I just bought another one. It's a Dometic 311. It's the top part is porcelain. From here up is porcelain, and it stands. The stand there is made out of hard plastic. Anyway, to make a long story longer, excuse me, the ordered it on Amazon. It came in just like I said it was. It wasn't damaged or anything, even though the box did have a hole in it. So I went to pull the old toilet out. It should be pretty simple. The water with the water hooks in on the back. I already had a shut-off valve here where I could shut off the water. It should be remove that, shut off the water, remove that, and then remove the two mounting bolts on either side of the toilet, just like your residential toilet. And then that's where the problem started. I got online, got on the forums, and discussed it with people, and a lot of different stories on easy peasy to it's a nightmare from hell. So anyway, what happened was the Casita folks. This is the original mounting bolts. It goes like this. If this was the bottom and this is the top, they actually, what that is it's just a fiberglass tank. They drill two holes, a big hole for your opening, and then they have these two holes that they drill through the fiberglass. They stick this through and they put silicone on the bottom of this, and they silicone it up, as you'll see in the pictures that follow. The silicone supposedly holds this in place enough where you can tighten this nut down to hold your toilet and crush it up against the seal, and it has a foam seal in it, unlike a wax one you have in a residential. Anyway, the problem being is silicone. Okay, so when you go to turn this, the whole thing turns. Okay, and if you open up like you flush the toilet and you actually stick your hand in through there, you still can't hold on to it because it's this little flat thing. It should fit in a flange thing that goes around the opening that this slides into and locks into place. This nut, per the specs by Dometic, should be at 40 foot-pounds, which is pretty dang tight. I mean, I used to be a mechanic, and when you get over 30 foot-pounds, you're talking about 30 foot-pounds and less you can do with your fingers. 30 plus, well, you start having issues. So this thing spun around, which made it very difficult to get out. And what you basically have to do, I was told, get a die grinder, get your Dremel tool, what have you, to cut it off. I couldn't get to it with the Dremel tool to cut it off. So I ended up getting a little plumber's hacksaw and sawing that thing, standing on my head, sawing that thing off there. Actually got one side off, okay? And how I did it was I hooked a vice grip to the top to hold this part and then turned the nut. And I was able to finesse one of them out. But this one I couldn't, because basically it's a piece of steel and it's in water all the time. So as you can see, it gets rusted, okay? This is the one I had problems with. You know, it was like it was on the Titanic or something. Anyway, the tank was clean and everything, so I had no problem with odors. But you can get a cup. They say a McDonald's size drink cup will fit down in the hole. Mine was clean. I really didn't have any odor problems whatsoever. So anyway, after they make a tool that actually has a little thing that comes out, a blade thing that rotates like this, and it cuts. You could use one of those if you could fit it in next to the toilet. It's a real tight fit in there, and so it's kind of a nightmare. It took me probably 15 or 20 minutes of steady sawing. The problem is that you have very little space in there to work, to get in there with a tool. And so I leaned over the top, and I got my little saw this way and sawed. It was on this side. Saw. Anyway, after that, taking it out, as you'll see in the pictures, the Casita people did not put any kind of a mounting bracket in there for these bolts to go through. Okay, the new ones on the Dometic came, they were brass, but therein lies the problem. I called Casita, talked to their parts guy who went out there. I said, I want to get one of those toilet mounting brackets for my 2019 Casita. And he was like, well, we don't have one of those. And I said, well, you're telling me that, you know, how do you do that? You know, I know you guys build them and you also replace them. How do you do that? I'll go ask the supervisor. He went and asked the supervisor, which I was very happy, and he was very nice of him, you know, because I wasn't very happy. And so if I was him, I would say, oh, okay, we got disconnected or something. Anyway, he came back and said, oh, we don't do that. We just put silicone on there and let it dry. That allows us to mount the toilet. And to me, that's pretty short-sighted, but you know how it go. That's probably a $15 to $30 item, and it would make it more secure, and like everybody else, it does. Trailers, I don't know if they do it that way or not. And all the videos, there's no videos of actually that I could find of a Casita getting the toilet replaced. Okay, I've seen videos where they said they did an upgrade and replaced the toilet, and but all the rest of them are your regular commercial RVs, stick type and what have you. Excuse me, it's coffee time. Anyway, so anyway, I cleaned that off. I had to scrape all that. As you see, there's a big old pile. It must have been like a tube and a half of silicone. And then they, on the other side, they encapsulate everything with silicone, of course. Get all that cleaned off, get all the silicone cleaned off. And then what I ended up having to do is I got some good 1/4 inch by 20 coarse thread, about 1.5 inches long bolts, washers, lock nuts and nuts, and basically did like they did. I siliconed the seal a little bit around on what was on the base of the toilet, and then I where the toilet meets the fiberglass, I siliconed around it, and then I also silicone around the bolt holes, and so that way it was sealed up. I put extra around there, and then I got the toilet and set it in as straight as I could over the holes, and so I used a stubby Phillips screwdriver to stick through the holes to try to line up the holes on the toilet and the floor. And then basically I opened up the flush valve, stuck my arm through it with a number 10 or a 7/16 end wrench, and held the bolt and on the inside, the black tank side, and put my nut on the top, my washer, my lock nut, and then my nut, and I tighten them up. You go back and forth and kind of, you don't want to just tighten it all up on one side. You want to work it down. I did that. I cleaned it all up afterwards. I let it set for, I don't know, from Saturday at 1, and it's about, I don't know, 10 or 11 o'clock on Monday. I'll just let it set there. And so this morning I went out, I hooked the water hose to the fresh water. I didn't use the pump. I made sure all my lines were purged of air, and I filled the bowl up with water, and I let just the bowl sit there full of water for an hour to see if they had any kind of a seal leak or anything on the flush valve, or if there was any water leaks where the water connected to the toilet or around the flush valve, and that was all good, thank goodness. And then the next thing I did was I filled the whole toilet up to the very top, and even up into the bowl with water, and let it set for an hour, just to make sure it wasn't leaking, and it wasn't. So I'm calling that good for now. So looking back on it, things that might have caused the problem, this is a much sturdier toilet. It is taller. Of course, you're adding weight to your vehicle, so there's that. It's quieter. It's just a much nicer. Now, whether it stands up, I don't know. The flush valve's on the opposite side of the toilet than what Casita's factory one was. I could have probably overhauled that one, but I would have had to pulled it anyway to do that. Anyway, so we just bit the bullet and got a new one. There's all kinds of porcelain toilets out there. I don't know which one's better, but that's what I got. It was the 311. But looking back on it, I think some of the things that might have caused problems with my toilet was the first time that the flush valve went out. I think that the Big Tex RV park in Amarillo, Texas, it's got like 125 psi of water pressure. I did hook up the hose, and I did have a regulator on it, but it immediately, when I hooked up and everything, started leaking water at the valve assembly. It still flushed and everything. The other thing that I think that I fixed that, the other thing I think that I did to shorten the life of it was lots of times when I would be at a campsite or at a dump station, I would fill my toilet bowl up by using the valve. and I would do that and flush out the black tank. So that's a lot of extra usage of that. The other thing that I did was I cleaned the system up. I do it on a regular basis. I sanitize my freshwater tank, and then I wash out the black tank, and I do it until it's clean and clear. And that thing's only underneath the toilet. It's probably only about 4 or 5 inches deep in there. So anyway, I have one of those wand things that washes. I did that, and I put my stuff that I normally put into the toilet in the toilet, and I I left it setting in the toilet. So maybe it messed up the seal or whatever. I don't know. I know that when it failed this last time, when I hooked it up to the water at Davis Mountain State Park, I stepped on the flush valve because I'd had problems on the way, and thought, well, the first time I tried to flush it, there was this black stuff that came out of the where the water fills inside the toilet bowl. It was looked like carbon or dirt or something, and it shot out, and then it always acted like it had air in it, and it just wouldn't have a good flow of water in it, and you couldn't manipulate the valve. The foot pedal thing was stuck kind of. It didn't act like it had pressure against it, and so that might have had something to do with it. So you need to watch your chemicals. Even though I did put lubricant in it for my seal and my valves and everything. One of the things I did was trying to fix the old one out on the side of the road was like I said, I hooked it up to the water, and I tried to flush it out, and then I tried lubricating the seal on it to where it was doing some weird stuff. It would either leak the water out of the bowl, would be empty, or it would stay shut and it would fill up by itself, which is not a good thing. Luckily this is one thing for sure you got to have a cutoff valve to your water, to your toilet, just for things like that. It's probably not a bad idea to do it under your sink too, just for accidental purposes. But anyway, that is a long story, but it was a painful one, and it's just for an old round guy to get underneath there and stand on his head and do all that stuff was a bit of an issue. More younger, limber, flexible person could slither in there and get it better. But these bolt deals, I think it's like I can't even say how disappointing that is that they just silicone those things in and think they're going to hold. But that's them. Anyway, half full Monty out. Bye bye.